Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the subject matter. The federal government and states are in agreement on the concept of a state police. In studio, Dr. Kabir Adamu, he's with us remotely, CEO Beacon Consulting, and in studio in Lagos here, Dr. Tony Ofoyeton, DG of the International Institute of Professional Security. And while we were away, Mr. Usman in Kaduna called in and is holding on. Thank you very much for that, sir. Go right ahead now.
Good morning, Kuyori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, sir. This this agreement of state policing, if you can check in Kano, Isba, most of them, they are doing it in the favor of themselves, because in Kano, they bring something Isba. That Isba, they use it to control people that not belong to them. If they want to recruit people in state police, they should check very well and know the proper people that will recruit into the state police. Likewise, see the military issue we are in Nigeria now and some other forces. People that are supposed to be recruited in the work, they will not recruit them. They will recruit different people that are in favor of them. That is what is spoiling the whole things in Nigeria nowadays. So,
but it hasn't, Mr. Usman, it hasn't happened yet. No doubt you are basing what you are saying on some previous experience you might have. You're not even allowing that this could be a fresh page.
Yes, we know that it's a fresh page, Uncle Yori. But the purpose of the state policing, we have been talking of the state policing ever since, but they know what they are doing. Instead, if the federal will look into it for us very well and recruit a proper people into the state policing, they are not hanky-panky people. That is where we can be able. They have state policing in other countries, in US. You will see somebody sit down in the bus stop, but it's a policing watching everything that is going. But it's not in our own Nigeria, in the situation that we are now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Usman. I appreciate your waiting while we were on break. Now, coming over to you, Dr. Kabir Adamu, a hint of suspicion, lingering suspicion there, which no doubt is going to be based on previous experiences. But I was suggesting that might we not cut the process a bit of slack and say that, look, things might have happened in the past, but state police was not one of the things that we had. Now it's a new day, and it is said that in principle the state and the federal government are in agreement. But let me go to the question of because of the dire security situation, people think that we should have had the state police since yesterday. But we've been talking about processes now. What to you, to your mind, would be an acceptable interval of time before we have state police up and running and doing their job?
For the simple reason that Nigerians are dying, and anything we need to do to improve or reduce the number of Nigerians dying should be done speedily. And if we agree that this is one element, and I agree that improving policing, mind you, I'm using the word policing, I'm not using the Nigerian police force, is one key area to improve internal security. There is no other area that would improve internal security as much as if we improve policing. And so to that extent, I think speedily. And so that means this conversation that the presidency, the leadership in the executive arm of government in security and the governors have started should be given the teeth that it deserves to move it very fast. Now, there are low-hanging fruits that we can quickly and speedily achieve. Uncle Yuri, not too long ago, the immediate past government implemented community policing when it revised the Police Act. And there are two elements of that community policing that we're not having enough discussion about, and that is the recruitment of constabularies and the creation of community policing committees. As far as I know, the Ministry of Police Affairs has perfected these two. In other words, the policy framework for their implementation is 100% completed. As far as I know, even the recruitment and the platforms for the two processes is almost 100% completed. In other words, if you go to all the local governments, 774 of them, and ask for a list of the constabularies, you are likely to find that. Also, if you ask the policing community policing committees, you are likely to see them in existence, but they are not functioning.
Okay.
Why are they not functioning? The same issue that may stop state policing from functioning. And point I'm trying to make is the political process that is stopping us from achieving improved policing. If we don't take it carefully and remove this initiative from the hands of politicians and place it appropriately within the prism of technocrats and police specialists, then we're likely to fall into the trap that has prevented other police reforms from achieving their objectives.
Okay. Before I come to you, Tony, in studio, Mr. George has called in from Ikeja. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Pierre. Good morning to Dr. Adamu and Dr. Tony, who is gorgeously dressed this morning. I hope he's not planning to marry a second wife.
No, the man has a board meeting this morning.
Okay, the state police issue is long awaited. I want to appeal to the National Assembly that they should not make this state police exercise part of the constitutional amendment they are planning to do. That one will take a long time. The state of insecurity in the country today calls for urgency in terms of addressing it. If they want to amend the constitution to enable states to create police systems, it's something they can do in isolation. That within a month or so, that law will be in place. The states, many of the states already have some form of policing that they just need to formalize. But I want a situation where the law should make provisions for minimum standard. There should be a minimum standard the state police system should be. If any state that wants to create its own police is not able to meet that system, it has to work hard to come to that standard. Otherwise, you'll be seeing in some states.
Okay.
Police now be looking like ragtag army, and that is not. And then the law should also encompass the kind of arms they should carry. You cannot establish a state police and you want to send them to the bushes where bandits are carrying RPG without arming the people to go and confront them. Any state that doesn't have the capacity to arm the police shouldn't go into the exercise. These are some suggestions I want the stakeholders to look into.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Okay, on that same question, actually, Dr. Adamu commented on the duration, acceptable duration. George has done so. So bringing the question to you, Tony was saying that, look, it can be done in a month if we want. What are your ideas on how long it should be before they are up and running?
You know, there's what we call the executive bill. Executive bill, incidentally, are the fastest bills in the National Assembly because it comes directly from the presidency. And it is attended to speedily, basically for the purpose of the functionality of the government. Having said so, if we are looking at this from that perspective, that means that we are going to be gaining time. But if we also look at the very fundamental issue Dr. Adamu raised, the issue of politics in security, it happens, unfortunately, to be the major impediment, not just in security, but even in national development. There are regions that want to move, with the speed of light. There are regions that are crawling, and there are regions that are, dragging other regions back or other states back. So it's good that in principle all the state governors have agreed. Now, if they have agreed, I think, if you ask me, that they should allow those that are experts and professionals in this field to do the rest. You have agreed. Let them do the rest. Leave the issue of ethnicity, leave the issue of religion, the issue of politics, leave it out of it. Let this thing be core, pure security issue. With that, we'll be able to gain time. Because if you ask me now what time frame, my own time frame will be as short as maybe 3 months from now. Okay. We should hear that all the states in this country have floated their own state security police apparatus and all those stuff like that. Assuming that all of them are ready. It's a point that George made. No, you see, that them being ready. At different levels of readiness. Yes, different levels of readiness. But I think that I will also want the federal government to look at the possibility of a takeoff grant. Okay. For each and every one of the states. For exclusive use in this project. Yes, for exclusive use, well monitored by the federal government. If the government wants to really key into that timing, believing it very well, key into that timing, they should be able to have a takeoff grant for all of them. Okay. Because if there's no takeoff grant, that excuse will crop up. It could be a problem. Ada in Jos. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning to your guests. It's Ada calling from Jos State. Yes, both guests, I've been listening to them over time. They've been advocates of state police, and I'm happy now that God has answered our prayers. It's Lord of ideas. But before I go on, I must commend President Tinubu. You know, he's a listening president. Why do I say so? Yeah. At least in the past, our president told us that state police is not an option. He said it. And you know, we have a rubber stamp, House of Assembly or whatever. So he really said it. We were not interested in state police again. So I'm happy now that at least President Tinubu did not throw that line of saying that it's not an option. Because this argument of that government will abuse and all that is not here nor there. It means that we are a lawless society. Can't we have stringent measures to put in check those governors? We must be seen to obey the rule of law. We cannot continue like this. Which country? I've Googled the number. I don't know any country that is practicing fiscal federalism that has only one central police. Until you get the policing system, effective policing system or community policing right to the grassroots local level, because most times are local, we cannot get it right. That's why we're having the problem we're having. Then they don't have to waste time. You know, just like George mentioned there, let them treat as an isolated case. There are some states that feel that they are not ready, and let them be relying on the federal police now. That's the way to go. Or you can let's not jump on Nigeria, or the man. It will get better.
Thank you very much, Ada in Jos. Dr. Adamu, coming over to that point, first of all raised by our viewer, George, calling in from Lagos, and commented upon by Tony in studio here. Some states, you know, different levels of development, different levels of preparedness for the state police. Tony's, suggestion is that maybe the way out might be there could be. In fact, I think Tony is not a matter of could be. There should be a sort of a special grant to bring people up to parity in terms of preparedness for the security of their state. Do you agree with that?
No, definitely. I want to emphasize that this is not going to be a walk in the park. It would require a lot of discussions. It would require coming up with a framework that meets the peculiarities of the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We have to recognize and agree that there are differences in both the requirements and the readiness of each of the states. And so that framework will have to take that into cognizance. But having said that, other considerations would be what would happen to the current police trust fund, as an example. That fund is being funded by monies, which include some of what should be going to the states. So if they now have responsibility for policing, will that fund be required to operate? How will the structure of the Police Service Commission be? Would it still remain only with jurisdiction or responsibility for the federal police, or would we agree that it can also extend to the newly created state police formations if we decide to go to that rule? So again, it's not going to be walk in the park. There will be a lot of conversation that I don't think politicians are appropriate to lead that conversation. And it takes us back to my earlier recommendation that experts in the field of policing, criminologists, should be brought together to come up with that template. And then after that, politicians can pick it up and go and do what they would usually do, which is to work out the white paper for the implementation. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's part of the priorities for this government, the harmonization of existing police reforms. So maybe it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just the gusto that is required to advance the process forward. And the president has demonstrated that, the governors have demonstrated it. So let's pick it up and move it forward. The National Assembly, too, interestingly, last week, came up with this idea that they will set up a committee. So the pulse of the nation at the moment is desirous of that. And like I said earlier on, Uncle Yuri, what worries me is we release reports every month. 1,022 Nigerians were killed in January. And if creating state police or decentralizing police, because they are two different things, is what will solve that challenge, then for God's sake, let's advance it as quickly as possible.
Okay. Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, calling in from Arochukwu.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest.
Good morning.
The state police is long overdue. Now, what I advise the government, the state governors, they should try as much as possible, all these vigilante groups, they should get the recruitment from that angle. And there are 3 types of police Nigeria should operate so that we get the needful. Community policing, local government policing, then we talk about the state and talk about the federal government. All of them should be accountable. The state police should be purely on the state issue, but directives within the state, but general overseer at least the federal. But the question is this: if the government started that issue of 1,000 employment, they said it, local government, 1,000 people from each local government, all this issue problem could have been solved. But the question is this: we are good in policy making, but implementation is the problem. People will tell you that the governors will hijack it, use it to attack the opposition. Let's keep that one aside. Now, Sayuri and our guest, as a country, we should be trying as much as possible to know the root cause or the root causes of any problem we have, instead of going to the symptoms. You see, after the Civil War, ammunitions were everywhere. Armed robbery came on board. When armed robbery came on board, you saw this one, Aba, Port Harcourt, Calabar, this one is day robbery. You see to Kurukuru, you just say that see people fight, robbing. You don't talk, you talk, you are just the waste that person. Now that was when the government would have started to fight. But the irony of the whole story that after this issue of armed robbery now moved to the rating we call it, the UK president, Prime Minister, when he came to Nigeria, you see what we have today is terrorists. Forget about anything to talk about whether bandits are the rest. Look at that with the APC, those man was killed over the weekend. Now, we should try as much as possible, in as much as we want to get to state police, all those indices, the local government authority, and like I said, they should have their own drone, manned by the local government and manned by the community on their own. That is it. It will now help us.
All right.
A situation whereby we sit and say, great people, but all this has to have a referendum. That's the National Assembly or the state government, or whether it is a Bejike or a Motok or anything we call it. That one has to, we have voice. Because when I see a Moteku voice on screen, honestly, at the right job, these are healthy young men that are gallant, that are ready. So they to the bush is not easy. But I see them, when I see I enjoy their job. These are the people that state governors should do what. But in short, I recommend that that is it their GOC or their commander, whatever I may call it, the man is trying. That's the overall board in the the man is trying. Honestly speaking, these are the type of people state governors should go to their own state and look for. We have.
All right, Mazi. I beg your pardon, Mazi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mazi. So sorry, but we're fast running out of time, and both gentlemen are with us, Drs. Ofoyeton and Adamu, have spoken on the need for professionals in the field of policing to be the ones that will take the project home, as it were, as opposed to, it being politicians coming together and having their say about it. It was Usman who called in from Kaduna earlier, who was, first of all, a bit apprehensive and was worried about it. So let me start with Dr. Adamu so I can end in studio. That's a point that cannot be overemphasized, isn't it? That this must be a neutral thing. It's every Nigerian is involved, is as involved as wanting the national team to win. At that stage, it doesn't matter. You must be a specialist, right?
Well, definitely. Policing, it's a special field. Not all security practitioners are police experts. And so we need to start from there. I mentioned in my contributions earlier on that we need to define what we mean by the policing imperatives of our country. Well, then I want to buttress the point made by Usman. And I'm very happy to note that as part of the Renewed Hope agenda, diversity, equity, and inclusion features prominently there. And so that's what we need to translate even into the policing arrangement that we want to make. We have to ensure that there is diversity. We have to ensure that there is inclusion and that there is equity. The number of women, the number of youths, the way the society is framed, who should be recruited. You can't have a situation where only one tribe or only one, perhaps, gender like that. So diversity, equity, and inclusion should be the way forward.
Indeed.
And I'm hoping.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu. Really appreciate your presence on the program this morning, CEO, Beacon Consulting. Once more, thank you very much. And Tony,
my pleasure. Thank you.
Sure. To end up in studio, that all-important point, it was even widened a bit by Dr. Adamu there in making comments on the caliber of people and the kind of spread so that this is a national thing, not a thing of sectional interest.
Well, if you are talking about state police,
yes.
That means it's going to be from that state. So the issue of national interest is not coming in. It's going to be state interest.
But it's going to be,
no, what happened
political considerations should probably be pushed to the back. We're talking about security of life and
it's going to be domesticated in that state.
That's right.
So you are going to be talking about the indigenous of that state with respect to all the ethnic tribes,
must be
all the religions
represented in the conversation.
Must be represented, and they must all be in the equation, as it were.
That is what I meant. It was my mistake.
But having said so, it's commonsensical. If you want something to succeed, then you have to carry along everybody.
Everybody must be
Security is too sensitive to the extent that if you leave any group, that group becomes your vulnerable point and the threat that will exploit that loophole, and that will not become a problem. So you don't leave any group, and you don't also, put any group at the back.
We hope everybody is listening that because it's an idea a lot of people are excited about, and it must work.
It will work.
Yeah,
I know. You see, on a closing note, I know the president. He is this type of person that once he believes in something, he pushes it through.
Okay.
That's just my belief. That is the hope I have that it will work. Because he believes in it. And he has campaigned with it. And he must make sure that it works.
That's what a lot of people are hinging their hope on. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tony Ofoyeto, DG International Institute of Professional Security.